Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Becxreadz, and today I am going to start a new themed reading vlog. At the beginning of the year, I went through my TBR shelf and I picked out 12 books that I needed more incentive to read, and it's called my Pick My Monthly TBR. So I picked 12 books, and then every month, or mostly every month, I put up a stack of books on my Instagram and on my community tab, and I let people vote for which book they wanted me to read most, and then the winner would get a reading vlog. Now, some months I picked because I was just in a mood to read one of them, but most months I allowed other people to pick. These were books that I was interested in reading. Obviously, I had kept them on my shelf, but I just needed I needed a push to get them read, you know? I am down to my final 3 books, and I accidentally started reading one that I had no intention of reading this month because I was outside doing yard work and I needed an audiobook, and this book just happened to be available on Libby at the moment, so I started listening to it. And that book is East by Edith Patu. I think that's how you say that name. I could be wrong. This was not the book that I had intended to read for this month. I picked out an entirely different book for this month that I'm also going to read. So I only have 3 books left. So that's the theme of this reading vlog. I'm going to finish out my Pick My Monthly TBR by finishing out the last 3 books that I had picked at the beginning of the year that I need to get read. So at the moment, I am about 60% into East, and I am enjoying it. This is about Rose, who is the youngest of 7 children. Her mother is very superstitious, and so when she was giving birth to each of her children, she wanted to make sure that they came out in a different direction, because according to her and her superstitions, the direction in which a baby is born will dictate certain aspects of their life. So when Rose was born, her mother wanted to insist that she was born east-facing, but she came too early, and she ended up being north-facing. And she had this prophecy that any north-facing child born was bound to die, and so she made sure that none of her children were born north-facing. And when Rose was born, she lied and she just claimed that she was an east-facing child, hoping she would grow up to embody what an east-facing child is supposed to embody. However, naturally, she grows up to embody what a north-facing child is supposed to embody. And one day, she is out having her own adventure when this white bear ends up saving her, and her brother rescues her. Well, this white bear shows up years later when one of her siblings is sick, and he tells her parents, if you give me the last born child, the child that is sick will be saved, your family will flourish and get money. And the father really doesn't want to do this. He loves his daughter and he does not want to sacrifice one for the sake of the other. However, her mother is all for it. She's like, you have to do this. And Rose herself is very adventurous and she wants to do this. So at the point I am at currently, the bear has allowed Rose to visit her family for a while and just reconnect with them. But he says, you have to come back with me. Don't let them persuade you to stay with them or anything like that. So that is where I am at currently. So I knew this book was a retelling of East of the Sun, North of the Moon. I could have that completely wrong. I knew that based on the synopsis. However, this month I also read my book of folklore from around the world, and inside I found The Bear King Volmund, and it is a Norwegian fairy tale, and it is basically this story. It's about, well, in this fairy tale, it's about a woodcutter with 3 daughters. The youngest daughter goes off with this bear, and he's at her castle, and at night something crawls into bed with her, and then she goes to revisit her family, and they give her a candle to look upon the face of whatever is sleeping next to her, and by doing this, it eliminates the spell that this troll queen placed on this bear, and so she has to go on an adventure to try and track him down and break this spell. That is this book. This fairy tale, The Bear King Volmund, that is this book. But I love that this audiobook is multicast narrated. It's really bringing it to life for me. I don't feel a strong connection to any of the characters at this point, but I am enjoying the story overall. So once I am done reading this, I will share my final thoughts. I have to clean the bathroom today and do some laundry, so you might get some B-roll of that. We'll see if I manage to record anything. And then I will also share with you the other 2 books that I'm going to read for this finish out my Pick My Monthly TBR vlog.
Picture so perfect we play through, only cause you set up the angle. Web that you weave got us tangled, caught in what's before our eyes. Show off your fantasy reality, whoa, that's yours, but I'll keep doing mine. You'll be living your good life, catch a glimpse from the outside, then you see me now, see me now, see now. Don't need any timeline to prove that this is my life. I can see it now, see it now, see now. You'll be living your good life, catch a glimpse of the outside, then
I am back with an update, a couple updates for you guys. It's been a while since I finished reading these books, but I did finish reading East by Edith Patel, and I'm going to give this book 4 stars. It's about a girl who's the youngest of her family, and in exchange for having one of her siblings cured of a sickness, she goes with this polar bear to this magical castle and lives with him, and then her curiosity gets the better of her one night, and somebody is always sleeping in bed next to her. And so one night after she's done visiting her family, she lights a candle and she looks to see who it is, and it ends up being this very attractive man, of course. But she wasn't supposed to do that. All she had to do was wait a little bit longer and not look at him, and his curse would have been broken and he would have been turned back into a human. But because she looked at him, now he has to go and marry this troll queen. And so she sets out on this journey to try and track him down and try and get him out of the curse that he's in. I really liked the journey trope in here. I love traveling around and seeing characters put in different circumstances based on like the weather and the geographic areas that they're put in and things like that. I also loved the family dynamics within here. We do get multiple perspectives, some of her brother, some of her sisters, some of the troll queen, some of the bear, even Rose herself. So I really liked seeing all those different perspectives. I liked Rose as a character. She's very curious, she's very stubborn, but she's also very true to her word, and when she says she's going to do something, she does it. The only reason this didn't get 5 stars from me is because I didn't have a super strong connection to any of these characters. I was pretty much just reading a book. I wasn't invested all that much in their lives. I also felt like the ending of this book was rather abrupt, considering I felt no chemistry between Rose and the bear prince guy. For the longest time, she didn't even know his name. They didn't have like a strong chemistry or anything like that. So at the end of the book, when things happen, I was just like, oh, okay, I guess it's fairy tale, I guess it works. But I wish I would have felt that stronger connection with him. So as I was reading this, it did bring to mind this movie that I watched when I was a kid. It's like 90s direct VHS movie. My sister and I used to watch this movie. She probably still owns it on VHS. I don't know. It made me think of that because I'm pretty sure this is inspired by this. But anyway, yeah. It's a decent story. I would recommend it if you're curious about it. It's a cute retelling. I just wish I had a stronger connection to the characters. And then once I finished that, I wanted to pick up the one physical book that I have to read for this vlog, and that is You Lucky Dog by Julia London. So I knew nothing about this book. I know it's a contemporary romance. That's it. I think I may have read some other Julia London books like early in my reading life, but I can't remember them. All I know about this was it's like 2 dogs get mixed up, and when their owners have to switch them around, they end up in a romance. So in this, we are following a young woman. I can't remember her name. She is like this, I honestly don't know what the fuck she is, quite honestly. She works with like fashion and helping companies and all that jazz. I honestly can't remember. And this guy who is a soon to be a tenured professor, he's like a really nerdy character. They both have beagles. Her beagle is a very neurotic, depressed, very sulky, and his beagle is very active and energetic and things like that. And their dog walker ends up getting arrested while he's out walking all these dogs for selling drugs. And so he asks one of his friends to, you know, take all the dogs back to their house. You know, at least he's a stand-up guy in that sense. But the person he gets to take the dogs back doesn't know which dog goes where, so he accidentally switches these dogs up. And then they have to switch them around. So I DNF'd this book. I DNF'd this book at 60 pages. First of all, I did not like the writing style of this book. It felt very stiff, very formal, and I just didn't enjoy the way it was written. I also didn't love the characters within the first 60 pages that I read of this. The female main character, she had nothing about her that was interesting to me. She was also very like rude. When she shows up at this professor's house to give him back his dog, she almost blames him for the fact that their dogs got mixed up, knowing full well that he had nothing to do with it. She's just very rude and pushy toward him, and like, how could you not know this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, lady, it's been a day, okay? It's been a day, and he's trying to figure it out. He just hasn't got to figuring out who the dog belongs to yet, so chill the fuck out. Even the dogs themselves, like, they weren't cute enough to draw me into the story, quite frankly. So I was like, you know what? There are other books that I would much rather be reading aside from this. And this is starting to make me realize that I should actually read like the first chapter of books before I buy them blind, because this is my problem with books that I just see the cover. I'm like, oh, I want that. Is I'll bring it home and I'll start reading it, and I know within like the first chapter that this is not going to be a book that I'm going to enjoy based on just how it's written. Either they're too descriptive or just the writing style itself just does not jive with me. So, you know, at least this book opened my eyes to the fact that I really need to start reading the first chapter of books before I buy them. But yeah, this I didn't have high hopes for to begin with. And it didn't go well at all. The last book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog is Yesternight by Kat Winters. Hopefully I can get this one read and not DNF it. I do own this physically, but I am going to listen to the audiobook, and I'm too lazy to go downstairs and get the actual physical book to hold up, so here you go. As I mentioned many a time, I have no idea what this book is about. I think it's reincarnation. It might be time travel. Who knows?
Sunday morning on a Saturday, wake up, time to get it started. No one's gonna get in your way. No one's gonna leave you broken hearted. You don't need nobody else. Everyone knows you're doing well, so well, yeah. Not a worry in the world, you ain't scared of nothing. You a boss kind of girl, you got all you wanted. Earned yourself a quick break in the morning. If someone tells you otherwise, give 'em warning. Don't let yourself be restrained. Own yourself and just walk away. Away, yeah, yeah. Just one look in your eyes, and I know I found who I'm looking for. It's the way that you smile that captivates my mind. 'Cause I see the way you're winning. You got something that inspires everyone who's lost their vision. You got something that everyone is craving. I'm just wishing I can be with you. I feel like I need you in my arms.
Quick work day update. So I am about 75% into this book right now. Again, I left it downstairs. I'm not downstairs. But this is not exactly the kind of story I thought it was going to be. I thought this was a romance, and it's not. So in this, we're following this woman who is a psychologist or a psychiatrist, one of those two, and she travels around to different schools, and she gives students tests to see if special schools can be opened based on the number of students who might need that. So she's pretty much like a modern day special ed psychiatrist is what she is. This is set in like the early 1900s. So she is a woman who is in a predominantly male field, so she's not taken that seriously, but she is an expert in what she does. She goes around and she tests children who are below grade level, who have special needs and things like that. She is sent to this small town in Oregon where she is supposed to test the students, and there she meets this young girl named Janie who has something very special about her. She has claimed ever since she was 2 years old that she has a past life, only she doesn't know that it's a past life. She just tells stories of when she was this other person, and this other person drowned at 19. It was a very horrible death. And she's a very smart 7-year-old girl. She's very into math, and on her bedroom walls, she has equations drawn all over the place. And her parents are just struggling to understand what's going on with her. The parents are also divorced. The mother thinks that the father is putting these ideas into her daughter's head to sort of get famous off of her. And the father has resentment toward the mother for not believing their daughter enough. So when this teacher, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, she comes to this town, and the first person she meets is the father, and he is actually an owner of like a little hotel or inn, and so he gives her a place to stay while she is in this town doing her job. She's trying to go through all of the believable avenues. Was she abused as a child? Did she experience any sort of trauma as a child? Did somebody she meet in her life say something that stuck with her? So she's trying to rule out all of these plausible avenues before she actually starts to believe that she might be a reincarnated soul. And at the point I am right now, she just received a letter from this town that this little girl claims that she came from before. They didn't even think this town was real. So when she receives a letter from this town and it confirms what this little girl is saying, they are contemplating actually taking her to this town so that she can meet the people who she claims to be related to. So while this wasn't exactly the romance that I thought I was going into, I am really enjoying the story. It's a very engaging story. It's very mysterious because we also find out that this teacher, she might have something to do with this past life that this little girl claims to have lived. So there's this mysterious aspect about it, and there's something not quite right with this teacher as well. She has a very violent past. I only have about like an hour and a half left on this audio. I'm hoping to get it finished while I'm working today, so hopefully I can give you an update at the end of the day. Right, well, I finished yesterday. I finally have the book in hand. This was interesting. Let me tell you, that ending, wow. I really don't want to tell you much about what goes on at the end of this book because the ending of this book was fucked up. It was really, really interesting, and I was like, I had to sit down and just listen to the audiobook because I was like, what is happening right now? I think I'm going to give this 5 stars because this was definitely not what I was expecting. There ended up being a tiny, tiny little bit of a romance. Tiny little bit. If you are looking for an adult historical thriller mystery, kind of a little bit of a horror in here as well, I would definitely recommend giving this a try because it was interesting to say the least. That is the end of this reading vlog. I finished out my Pick My Monthly TBRs. I did get 2 of them read, a 5-star and a 4-star and 1 DNF. If you have made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a skull emoji? I'm not gonna tell you why though. And until my next video, thank you so much for watching, and go read a book you know nothing about. It might surprise you. Bye.